morning, good people. Yeah, you know what it is. Hard worker, scrappy, unfiltered, and sometimes unhinged football content. Hard to explain, but you know it when you see it. Doing it daily our way. I don't know what you're talking about right now. Redraft and Dynasty Fantasy Football, we got you covered. You know their defense is ranked like 31st in the NFL? NFL draft prospects and rookies? Now you know you in the right place for that.
Absolutely.
All right, then stop saying it. Then we're done. And prop bets with my man Jay Rich. Count that money, man. Now wipe the crust out of your eyes. Get you a cup of coffee. It's time to wake your ass up with Ray G. You honestly are making absolutely no sense and you sound silly as hell. GMGP. It is Monday, September 25th, 2023. Y'all decided to wake y'all asses up with Ray G. And I appreciate every single view, every single eye, every single rewatch that's in the damn building. You got to give a shout out to the good people who wake up every single damn day and check out the show. So what's going on with you, Shane Joe? I see you in the building. Drew Sorensen Music, my man Marlon, Patrick L. Wood, Robert in the building. Tank Dell is here, baby. Robert pumped about that Tank Dell. Yeah. Jimbo in the building. Leo, Seth, Rongo. Got a bunch of people. Buy Justin Fields in Dynasty for super cheap, like a first in car. We'll talk about Justin Fields a little later in the show. I see people bigging up Devon A-Chain, Keenan Allen. What's up? We got a damn good show on tap for you today. Remember, we are going for 90 minutes or close to that every single time we drop this show. Jay, hit the music, man. Cut the music off. Yes, week 3 almost in the books. We got Philadelphia and Tampa Bay tonight, and then we are all on Burrow watch. The LA Rams and the Cincinnati Bengals square off from a Super Bowl matchup a couple of years ago. Not sure if Burrow's going to play in this one. We got a lot of injury stuff that we got to get to. But Jay, first and foremost, how you doing this morning, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's funny, people before the show even started, bigging me up in the chat for my Justin Fields take. Maybe I'm not a hater after all. I'm not here to victory lap. I'm not here to say anything, because for people who actually listen to all of my content, I was hoping that Fields could be good this year, but I didn't say it was going to be because he's a great passer, and that's really all I have to say about that. But Ray, the most surprising result of the weekend, thankfully for you, was not your Dallas Cowboys. You are very lucky, my friend. We can get into the game if you want, and we will get there. But you are very lucky that the Dolphins scored 70 points this weekend, because I think just maybe that will be the biggest narrative. Sean Payton and his big-ass mouthing off all offseason to be 0-3 and allowing 70 points. Ray, I don't know. Did you see a stat if that's an NFL record? Because, in my memory, it's the most points I've ever seen. It's a lot of points for a college game, not to mention an NFL game.
Yeah, man. No, I've seen 50-point games. You see some, high 40s, some 50-pointers. I don't recall seeing a 70-point NFL game ever, in my life.
Yeah. 14 drives, 10 touchdowns.
Yeah, man.
Robert's saying most yards in a game. I mean,
yeah, it was like
no surprise
they
there.
had 700 and something yards. I think they had close to 300 on the ground, and then they called the dogs off in the fourth quarter. I do Bleacher Report, the power ranking stream every single Monday. I do the power ranking stream over on Bleacher Report. Tap into that at 2 o'clock Central Time, 3 Eastern. I'm at Miami at number 1, Jay. I had Dallas at number 1. I think they're the best team.
Overreaction Monday is here.
Nah, man. You put up 70, bro, and then defensively, they don't even have Jalen Ramsey. It looked like Vic Fangio's an upgrade
better for
over
sure.
what they had. You put up 70. I don't know how you stop the offense. They put up 70 with no Jalen Waddle. Think about that for a minute. They put up 70 with a 30-year-old running back, a 185-pound running back, no Jalen Waddle, and they pulled the starters at the end of the third quarter. I mean, I've never seen anything like it, man. They went out there and absolutely, you talk about putting foot in ass, they put foot in ass of the Denver Broncos. And Sean Payton was all in his feelings at the end of the game, upset with the reporters, edgy. It's awful, man. It was they quit. Denver's defense quit. Offensively, they couldn't do anything. You got the third, fourth string running back ripping off long runs. So we'll talk about Miami in a minute, Jay. But there's some news that we got to get to. We'll talk a little college ball if we got time at the end of the show. I want to make sure that we hit every single NFL game. talk about the takeaways from these matchups, fantasy implications moving forward. And Jay, the thing is, a lot of people, week 1, week 2, oh, it's early, give it a little bit of time. Now, like, think about where we're at already. We're almost a quarter of the way through the fantasy season. It's 3 weeks are in the books already. Yep. So it's not about waiting and figuring it out and let's give it a couple more weeks. Nah, man, those teams that are 0-3 is pretty much a wrap for you. Like, it's do or die. It's do or die at this point. You got to rattle off 5, 6, 7 wins in a row, and that's so difficult to do in this game that we play, especially with the variance from week to week with some of these players. I mean, shit, 3 games in, man, 0-3, it's looking bleak. So got a lot to get to. Jay, let's just go ahead and get into any kind of injury stuff that we missed from Sunday. What do we got?
So we have the Derek Carr AC joint sprain, right? So he got hurt. I believe it was in the 3rd quarter of that game. Obviously, the Saints ended up collapsing in that game, and we'll get into that. So he's going to miss a few weeks, more likely than not. Definitely going to miss this week, and then they're going to kind of see from there. This is very similar to the injury we saw from Brandon Ayuk, right? So he obviously missed Thursday Night Football. I don't know if he's going to be back this week, but yeah, so we'll see about Derek Carr. If not, obviously, Jameis Winston will be at the helm, which is great for Chris Olave, because if you guys recall, first 4 weeks of the season, Chris Olave was leading the NFL in air yards by a mile when he had Jameis Winston as his quarterback. You know, other Saints we'll see, but Alvin Kamara will be back as well. So I think the Saints will be okay from a quarterback standpoint. Obviously, Jameis, one of the better backups in the league, but Derek Carr going to probably miss a couple weeks, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did hold him out a little bit so he's fully healthy, because I do think Jameis will be just fine, but they do play the Bucs next week. Mike Williams is going to get an MRI on his knee today. We are expecting a potential ACL. So if you do have Mike Williams, he could be gone for a significant amount of time, if not the entire season, if it is confirmed to be an ACL injury. And we'll get into Quentin Johnston, kind of what it means for him. Obviously, Keenan Allen balled out. But as well, we'll see what happens with Mike Williams. But people are expecting it to be an ACL tear, which obviously his season will be done after that. I saw this morning, actually, for Ian Rappaport. Apparently, Jimmy Garoppolo is being evaluated for concussion right now, because at the end of that game, he was evaluated for concussion at the end of the game, and then obviously didn't do media availability with the reporters, which I didn't even remember was a rule that if you have a concussion, you don't do media availability with the reporters. But Ian Rappaport was talking about that this morning. So his status for week 4 could be in question as well. Not that he played great, not that many people are starting him, but Devontae Adams looks pretty good in that game, even with Jimmy Garoppolo at the helm. And as you mentioned, Ray, Joe Burrow, game time decision right now. I think he's going to play, though. You know, I understand wanting to hold him out, but how in the world do the Bengals justify holding Joe Burrow out when, if the rest of the division is 2-1 and they're 0-3 heading into week 4, their season is like not over, but definitely in jeopardy at that point. So I do think Joe Burrow is going to play. He has been getting more and more reps in practice as days go on, but obviously still a game time decision. We probably won't know till later in the day to see if he is going to play. And if he doesn't, man, the Rams should probably steamroll the Bengals at that point.
Yeah, man, the Mike Williams injury is tough. It looked pretty bad when it happened. He had to get carted off, and that was after a big game from Mike Williams. So we'll talk about Josh Palmer. We'll also talk about Quentin Johnston, maybe what to think about those guys moving forward in this Chargers offense that finally seemed like they had to open it up. But defensively, did you see that J.C. Jackson was a healthy and active? $80 million.
Really?
Healthy and active, healthy scratch from the game. So not looking good on the defensive side of the ball, but Brandon Staley saved once again. Joe Burrow, I'll just say this. If you were holding out hope to start him, you've got, 4 options tonight? Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield, Matthew Stafford, Joe Burrow.
You probably got none, right? Maybe Baker, if you're lucky.
Baker, if you're lucky, or Stafford. I hope you didn't go into Monday night needing Joe Burrow and waiting on Joe Burrow to play. But based on some of the other quarterback performances, some guys weren't much better this past weekend. So let's just start this thing off, Jay. And we got to talk about the team that dropped 70 points. Like, where else are we going to start? The Denver Broncos and the Miami Dolphins. Miami wins 70 to 20. And, some of those were they could have scored 80, 90 points if they wanted to, Jay. Again, never seen anything quite like what we saw from the Miami Dolphins this past weekend. So let's just pull it up. Let's pull up ESPN, 70 to 20. You see all the numbers right here. Tua, almost perfect. 23 for 26, 309 yards, 4 touchdowns. And let me ask this question, Jack. I don't know if he's been sacked all season. I still don't think Tua has been sacked this year. I could pull it up. I mean, I'm right here. You don't have to look it up.
Let's see. Sacked.
I don't think
he was sacked once by New England.
He was sacked once. Okay, he got 1 sack in the New England game. That's the only time he's been hit is in the New England game. He starts off versus the Chargers, 466, 249 versus New England, 309 versus the Denver Broncos, 71% completion percentage, 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on the season. Jay, he is currently the MVP of the NFL. Like, I believe that he is currently
plus 380.
There you go.
Patrick Mahomes is next at plus 600. So Tua actually has a sizable gap on Patrick Mahomes right now. Mahomes was pretty good in the game, but yeah, Tua just another level, man. As you mentioned, without Jalen Waddle, he's not really throwing to anybody worth a damn, right? Like, he threw it a lot to Mostert, which again, Mike McDaniel's scheme, get your ball to your best players, right? And Tua was phenomenal in this game. He started 16 for 16. Might even started better than that. I did see he was for sure 16 for 16, and he was coming close to the record for the Dolphins. The record for the Dolphins, I believe, is 20, and I'm pretty sure it's held by Ryan Tannehill at that. But yeah, 23 for 26, 309 yards, 4 touchdowns, 155.8 passer rating. Mike White, 2 for 2, 67 yards, and a perfect passer rating. How did Tua get outdone by Mike White? My goodness, what a game.
Mike White got in the action. That's how good things were for this Dolphins offense, Jay. And, you know, one of the big things that we talked about on this show, we're going to be transparent. We talked about being out on Tua because of the medical history, because of the concussions. What we've never said is that he's not a good quarterback. I mean, he was going into 2020, and I believe I was wrong on this case, but a couple of years later, it's probably like, it looks pretty good either way. He's my QB1 over Joe Burrow going into that 2020 class. I think we would all prefer Joe Burrow, even though right now it's looking like there's an argument between the two because Burrow's not playing and a little bit injured, but it's the concussions. And as long as Tua can avoid being concussed, and I know that's not necessarily up to him all the time. The defenders get paid a lot of money, too, to play defense, but he can deal. And in this offense where Mike McDaniels, honestly, man, you're talking about creative. They ran that same no-look shovel pass play twice in the game, and it worked twice. You would think that the defense would figure that out or at least not allow that to happen again. They ran the same damn thing twice. Devon Achane, let's talk about him, man. Let's talk about Devon Achane, Jay.
My goodness, Ray. 18 carries, 203 yards, 2 touchdowns, and just to top it off, 4 receptions, 30 yards, and another 2 touchdowns. Both backs with 4 touchdowns in this game. Devon Achane's first real action in the NFL, and this guy comes out with a 50-burger for fantasy football. Ray, I think the number one question for me is, how high does he go in running back rankings? I mean, Devon Achane clearly is extremely explosive, very elusive, but I mean, 203 yards, 2 touchdowns. How does the dynasty market not overreact to a performance like this?
It's going to be hard for a lot of people to overreact, and we have no need to do that because we've loved Devon Achane all the time until he wasn't playing the first 2 weeks because of injury. But this was a running back that we said back in January was going to put a lot of people's process to the test because he is not built like a traditional bell cow running back, which at this point, man, I don't know how many times we've said it on this show. I saw Matt Harmon, shout out to my dog, Matt Harmon, talking about this last week, that there are very few bell cows in the NFL from the traditional sense of what we think about going out there and toting the rock 25 plus times a game. It's literally like Zach Moss, James Conner. Those are your bell cows right
and
there.
And Josh Jacobs, yeah.
Josh Jacobs and Christian McCaffrey. Zach Moss, Jacobs, Christian McCaffrey. Those are your bell cows in the NFL right now. But most teams are deploying a multiple back system, and it worked to perfection yesterday for the Miami Dolphins with Achane and Mostert splitting work. And a lot of people look at the 18 carries. A lot of that did come in mop-up time because he was still out there with Mike White once the starters were out, just getting this young man work. How does the market not overreact? I don't know, man, but I'll tell you right now, I am glad I've got some Achane shares. I'm excited about those. He's dynamic. Everything that we saw at Texas A&M, the speed, the contact balance, if he's going to continue to be utilized in this role, he's going to be a very effective player for the Miami Dolphins and a very usable and fantasy-friendly asset as well. In this offense, think about the spacing this offense creates with Tua and Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. This is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. How does the market not overreact? I don't know, Jay. I think people will 100% overreact to Devon Achane.
Yeah, I mean, this is the biggest problem now is, I mean, you got to give credit to Mostert too, because Mostert had a phenomenal game. Like, could catch 7 passes on 7 targets, 60 yards through the air with a touchdown. I mean, he was also just great. And as you mentioned, another 4 touchdowns for him because he had 3 on the ground with only 82 yards. But, I mean, I think we all know A-Chain's going to be involved. Another point of emphasis here is Savon Ahmed didn't play in this game, right? So he would have probably worked in, especially at the end. He wasn't active. So I think they only had 2 backs active. Obviously, Alec Ingold was also active, their fullback, but it was really just Mostert and A-Chain. And A-Chain had to be the guy to mop up the game and obviously still broke off a big touchdown to end that game. But yeah, I mean, like, the question is, do you start him next week against the Bills? That's the question in the chat right now, Ray, is would you start him against the Bills? Every week, the Bills are just shutting down running backs. Even against Brian Robinson, they had a pretty good week as well.
Yeah,
it's
you
tough,
start him.
man.
If he's gonna play, if you play him, you got to start. You just got to start. You've got to start him, man.
What I'll say, Ray, is listen to Scott Connor's pod this morning, because I listened to it this morning, and he talked about Devon A-Chain, right? And he talked about how only like 5% of people in fantasy league started them. You know, everyone in best ball was like, "Woo, Devon A-Chain, let's go!" Right? Yeah. You know, everyone with those Mostert A-Chain stacks in best ball is just losing their damn minds right now. But the reality is, in a lineup league, starting him didn't happen this week. But next week, going into a Bills matchup with a top 5 rushing defense, it's not the best matchup. But to your point, people may do it. So everyone, Ray's saying start him. I'm telling everybody, listen to Scott Connor's pod on DD Radio today.
It's freaking Monday. We'll see when we get down to get down to it. But most people are going to jam him in the lineup. That's the reality of the situation. Mostert had a big day, 3 touchdowns for Raheem Mostert. What's crazy about this is Tyreek had a big day, and nobody's talking about Tyreek Hill. He had 11 targets, 9 for 157. Big deal, Tyreek. 1 touchdown. You know, no one really cares. I mean,
when you're outscored by Adam Thielen, no one cares, right?
No one cares, right? Just a normal stroll in the park for Tyreek Hill. 9 catches, 157 yards. Raheem Mostert, another seven receptions. A-Chain. I mean, this was just a dominant offensive performance. And at this point, I don't know how you can look at this team offensively and say that this isn't, at least right now, week 3, the best team in the NFL. Right now, we're seeing all these top-flight defenses. Everyone's giving up points. The name of the game is scoring points. And I see people talking about A-Chain, sell him. He's not going to be able to sustain, too small. Dude, you can't even tackle in the NFL now. They called a penalty on Minkah Fitzpatrick's hit on Jimmy Garoppolo. That was a standard hit. Yeah. And they called a personal. You can't tackle in the NFL now. I don't think the NFL cares. The BMI truthers, get out of the freaking Stone Ages. Like, get off of Windows 95. Nobody cares. The league doesn't care. You can be 5'8", 155, and they don't care. It doesn't matter. And you're talking about sustainability. Even these big running backs aren't doing shit that weigh 230 pounds. So at this point, give me the player that can move in space, that can outrun defenders, that can be utilized in a creative offense. Anybody still out there preaching BMI, get over it. You're playing fantasy football from 10 years ago. That's not today. That's not the landscape of today's NFL. Will he get hurt? Absolutely. But everybody's going to get hurt. Saquon Barkley, name them. Jonathan Taylor, they all get hurt. So give me the guy that's on the field, that's healthy, that's explosive. I don't care about any of that. BMI truthers are done, buried, and gone. We've moved on from all of that stuff in fantasy football. So on the other side of the ball, Jay, Courtland Sutton peppered with targets, dropping passes, catching passes, had a solid day, no doubt about it. Jerry Jeudy got a long catch in the fourth quarter. That 46-yarder saved him in the fourth quarter. Outside of that, he did much of nothing. Marvin Mims did have a kick return for a touchdown. Got more involved in the offense, and he should continue to get involved in this offense moving forward. The running backs, Jay, I mean, I asked about, who did I ask about last week? Javonte Williams. I watched the game, and I mean, he looks okay. Just like people told us. They were like, he's okay. He looks okay. He looked fine, but not anything that you're going to, like, go crazy over. And then Russell Wilson. I don't think Russ...
Not bad.
He didn't play great, but he wasn't awful either. Denver just seems like they're a mess. Sean Payton talked all that shit about Nathaniel Hackett and how bad Nathaniel Hackett was. And then you look at him, he's been equally as bad. He has not been good either. And didn't Denver trade? Would they trade to get Sean Payton a first-round pick to get this coach?
They did. They did.
Jay, it ain't looking good. I'll just say that. It does not look good. But yes, everybody from Miami balled out, dominant performance. Jay, I want to move on to the Houston. Anything else from the Miami Denver game?
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah.
All right, so I want to move on to the Houston Texans and Jacksonville Jaguars game. Texans went into Jacksonville on the road with a rookie quarterback, with the rookie QB, and they put it to Jacksonville. We talked about this game on Friday. Houston, they were down multiple defensive backs. I think 3 of their defensive backs were out in this matchup, including one of the best young safeties in the NFL, Jalen Petrie. And they went out there, Jay, and they still got it done. And I want to start out talking about C.J. Stroud and how good he looks right now. And I'm just going to say this. I believe that right now, if you're just asking me today, he's been the most impressive rookie quarterback from the 2023 class. Yes, we still love Anthony Richardson and the fantasy football upside that he brings to the table. He didn't play this week because of the concussion, but keeping it 100, C.J. Stroud has been the most impressive rookie quarterback this year. I don't think there's been another quarterback that's been more impressive than Stroud. I would love to hear your opinions on this one, but C.J. Stroud finishes this game. What did he go? 280 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks, 10 incompletions. Another game of them just allowing him to throw the ball, Jay, and they didn't have to let him throw the ball 45 times because they were in command of the game. They were in command of the game. If they needed him to throw it 40 plus times, I guarantee they would have had no problem letting him throw it. But Houston improves to 1-2, and the Jacksonville Jaguars, who took the Kansas City Chiefs to the brink of the playoffs last year, 1-2, and they played a real sloppy game versus the Colts. Indianapolis should have won that game. But C.J. Stroud, another game of spreading the ball around. We saw Tank Dell with a massive game for Tank Dell. Massive monster game for the rookie wide receiver. And again, Jay, BMI be damned. Tank Dell, we saw him up close and personal. He is not a big receiver at all, and it doesn't seem to matter. They're utilizing him in space. They're getting him open. They're scheming him downfield, and C.J. Stroud is doing exactly what he did at Ohio State, which is delivering for the Houston Texans, Jay. You saw Brevin Jordan getting in the action, maybe a little Brevin Jordan revival right here. We liked him coming out of Miami. Nico Collins didn't have a big day, 2 for 34. Robert Woods, 3 for 34. But it was they were in full command of this game. C.J. Stroud looks incredible, man. Best rookie quarterback so far from the 2023 class. On the other side of the ball, my question to you, Jay Rich, is when are we going to have the conversation about Trevor Lawrence? Because it feels like he's getting let off the hook for poor play. He's been awful this season. Yeah, you look at this, 279 yards, 1 touchdown, only 1 interception. He's been awful this year. I believe in EPA, he is the worst quarterback or second to last in EPA per drop back. He has not played good football this year. So we gave him a pass in year 1 because Urban Meyer, we all know that Urban Meyer was an awful head coach. He makes strides and turns things around significantly in year 2. We're all excited. We're all bullish. Jay, what are your thoughts with Trevor Lawrence, and why has he not received the criticism for his play this season that other quarterbacks have? And I get it. He had a very nice rebound in year 2. But right now, you should hit the ground going. This is a division opponent, down defenders. We know the talent isn't there from Houston. What is up with T-Law and the Jacksonville Jaguars sitting at 1-2?
I'm not sure what's up with the Jaguars, but definitely, T-Law has not been up to snuff. 3 touchdowns on the year passing, 2 interceptions. I mean, I think the reality is that Houston is a much better team than we thought they were, and the Jags aren't as good as we thought they were. I think both can be true, right? You know, Houston offensively obviously was phenomenal. You talked about C.J. Stroud and how great he's been, one of 3 quarterbacks to have 900 passing yards in their first 3 games. I forget who the third was, but one of them is actually Cam Newton, bombing it out as a rookie. But you talk about Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, it just, for whatever reason, hasn't clicked. You know, you look at Indianapolis and in that first game, and everything was to Ridley, and it was all great. Next game was all to Christian Kirk, and that was kind of what the offense needed to do in order to try and beat the Chiefs. They obviously weren't successful. But against Houston, I'm not really sure why they didn't succeed. You know, you talked about Jalen Petrie on the back end. Derek Stingley didn't play. There should have been plenty of opportunities. Now, Ridley kind of dropped the touchdown. I would say he dropped it, right? It was in the end zone. It was right there. And then last week,
he dropped it.
Right, last week, Zay Jones dropped another touchdown, or 2 potentially, depending on how you look for it. So Trevor has made some throws, but to your point, has struggled overall, right? I think for fantasy, though, He's been okay. He hasn't been scoring a lot of points, but the potential has been there.
Not
but the
for
problem
where you
for me
draft,
is
not for where you drafted him.
Not for where you
drafted him. He has not been okay. He has not.
Well, I mean, you could say that about a lot of quarterbacks, right? Some of them, some big underperformers this year, but yeah, T-Law definitely one of the biggest. And I think this is the reason why even you and I at times struggled to put him in that top 7, because even though we believe the Jaguars will be better, they have Christian Kirk, Ridley, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram had a phenomenal game this game, but T-Law isn't delivering on the promise, right? When you have Travis Etienne going for almost 100 yards and catching 4 passes, you have Ridley on the field. Like, what's stopping this team from being great yesterday really was Trevor Lawrence. And so that's the biggest problem, is that I do think Houston's a much better team, but Trevor Lawrence is to some degree holding this team back right now. He's made some phenomenal throws, but as you mentioned last week, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. There's ups and downs, there's highs and lows, and there seems to be a bit of a valley right now for T-Law. And I don't know if you saw on Twitter, he's taking notes of what people are saying about him.
Oh yeah,
so watch out.
Yeah,
watch out for
notes.
that.
Yeah,
he's taking those notes. He's taking names and writing things down, but hopefully he can start producing at a higher level, because right now he's just not playing well enough. And as you mentioned, the Colts, number 1 in the division at 2-1 right now.
I see a lot of people. Xavier said, you're just paying for the name with T-Law. L. Wood said T-Law went from projected to own that division to possibly 3rd best. And I don't want to. I look at him, man, and we always ask the question, truck or trailer? Is the quarterback the truck or the trailer?
Doesn't seem like a truck right now. It's close. He seems like a compiler, Ray. Remember how we talked about this with Herbert to some degree before? He just seems like a compiler at times. And if he's not going to win, what's the longevity in fantasy football and stuff like that, right? That's the biggest problem for me with the Lawrence. And you're looking at the QB values, right? Because I was looking to see if Stroud was going up. I think he's still QB7, right? If I'm recalling correctly.
It says QB10 for CJ Stroud.
Yeah, Stroud is 10, but Lawrence still up at 6.
Lawrence is 6. Yeah, Lawrence over Lamar Jackson, over A-Rich, over Tua. Right now, Tua or T-Law. If you had to pick one, Tua or T-Law.
Oh, Tua, not even close. Not even close.
Not even
right?
close.
It has to be Tua.
Okay.
I think like Ray, legitimate question. Like, again, this is more of a projection, but is there a world where you would trade Trevor Lawrence for CJ Stroud?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And so what would that plus need to be?
I'll get some plus on top of it. I'm not sure what the plus would need to be, but it's CJ Stroud plus for Trevor Lawrence, and I'd make that move.
He's on that.
He's
on that Burrow trajectory, right? Like we talked about this. He is like a Goff floor with a Burrow-esque ceiling, and he's really not doing it with many playmakers. Like, if Houston can actually go out and get him a receiver, which is going to be tough without the first-round pick, but man, like, it just he's not doing with much on the board right now.
I like Tank Dell. I think Nico Collins is a nice complementary weapon. I do not believe that
Woods has been good, right?
Woods has been fine, but he's older. Yeah, they need another guy. They need another playmaker on the outside, and maybe, I don't know what the free agent market looks like next year, but maybe
Higgins.
I mean,
right? Might take away from Nico Collins a little bit. I feel like they're very similar in some ways, but
take away from Nico. Put Nico on at the Z, put T. Higgins at the X, and have Tank Dell in the slot. Man,
yeah,
that's
he's the highest profile. I don't know who else is a free agent, but yeah, he's right now at least is the guy that would be. And if you're Houston, you should be going after him, because if you have a CJ Stroud on a rookie contract, go and get the receivers to make him great, right? Like, they did what they could. They got Woods, and you're like, yeah, Woods has been pretty good, surprisingly. And as you said, it's because CJ Stroud is great, right? It's because he is great. Robert Woods last season on Tennessee, what was he? Terrible. You go put him on Houston where there's some volume, slightly better quarterback play, and this is the game they played without Laramie Tunsil, who as well will only make that offensive line better. Now, again, and Jacksonville, I think, as well, regressed on defense badly, but it really is like, this story is CJ Stroud good, Trevor Lawrence bad. But do you want to talk about ETN? Because he was surprisingly good in this game, but he definitely has a Tank Bigsby problem right now on the goal line.
Well, he's got a Tank Bigsby problem on the goal line, Jay, but we got to keep it moving. We got to keep it pushing, get on to the next game. I don't want to spend too much time on each game. I think CJ Stroud is 100% a buy. I would be trying to tear down off of a Trevor Lawrence if I could get, if CJ Stroud were available and on the block, 100%. I want to talk about the Colts-Ravens game, which I did not see this one coming. The Colts are 2-1 on the season. Baltimore falls to 2-1 with an overtime home loss to the Gardner Minshew-led Indianapolis Colts. Bell cow Zach Moss, 30 freaking. When's the last time an NFL running back had 30 carries? I'm truly curious. I don't know the answer to that question. But Zach Moss had himself a day. Also caught a touchdown pass in the game. 2 for 23, 1 touchdown on 3 targets. Minshew 227, 1 touchdown. No interceptions. Was sacked 5 times on the other side of the ball. Man, the Todd Monken passing attack has not come to fruition the way that we all thought it would. Lamar Jackson's passing, not great on the day. Took 4 sacks, no passing touchdowns. He was dominant on the ground, 101 rushing, scored 2 on the ground. He is their RB1. You saw Melgo get 10 carries. Gus Bus got some touches. On the outside, on the receiver side, it's Zay Flowers. We continue to talk about Zay Flowers. He is the monster. He is the target hog in this offense, even doubling up Mark Andrews. Rashad Bateman, nothing from Rashad Bateman. Kenyon Drake did get on the field, caught a couple of passes in this one. But this the offense just has not seemed to get in rhythm from a passing perspective yet. They continue to throw the ball. I'm sure they'll work through some things. It's just not quite.
It's a work in progress.
It's not quite there. We continue to rank them inside the top 10 power ranking team, and I don't know, Jay. I don't. This division,
not feeling the Ravens.
The AFC North. I don't know. I don't know about ball. That's all I could really say. Zay Flowers, dope. Lamar Jackson is doing what he needs to do from a fantasy perspective, but Mark Andrews hasn't been the all-star tight end that we thought he would be, and I know he missed a game and caught a touchdown last week, but this is one where he should have dominated this game, it felt like, and he just wasn't utilized in the offense a lot. On the other side of the ball, we were so concerned about Michael Pittman Jr., and he's been one of the more consistent receivers this season. Just hasn't scored any touchdowns, but you're talking about going out there, playing consistent. He's been incredible. This offense is going to be very good. Josh Downs with 12 targets on the day. Anthony Richardson's got some pieces once he comes back.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head here. I think, to be fair to Baltimore, it was a little wet, right? And they're without Ronnie Stanley and
I don't want to.
Tyler Linderbaum, right?
Stop. We're not doing this. We're not doing this. I don't care how wet it was. It was wet for both quarterbacks. It's Gardner Minshew, and you're at home. I don't want to hear nothing about it being wet. I don't want to hear nothing.
Okay, so what about the PI though at the end of the game?
Okay, now that was bad, but don't
that was bad,
right?
Weather
talk. We're not doing that.
We're talking about passing, right? Like but Lamar was still. But he was still over 50 or it's over 60% completion, right? So his completion rate was okay. The ADOT was low. He ran when he needed to. But yeah, they definitely did not make enough big plays. We'll see what happens with this offense. To your point, it's a lot of dink and dunk, very low ADOT. And I think the problem is that we thought they would have the guys to kind of supplement it with the yak, and that hasn't really come to fruition, right? Like Bateman was supposed to be a guy that we saw get yards after the catch, and Zay Flowers has done that to some degree, but his ADOT is really, really low right now to where he has to create so much he can't even get the yards on 8 receptions. Aguilar again, getting targets, getting yards, being decent in this offense. Like, I think there's a lot of pieces here, but it's not going to amount to much for fantasy. Zay Flowers will be the volume guy. I'm much more interested in this Colts offense. Once again, Shane Steichen doing it, man. Like, just doing it. Man. Josh Downs is going to be great for fantasy going forward. Michael Pittman clearly is a probably wide receiver too. At worst, how much can he score? And the quarterback play has been phenomenal. I think that's the main takeaway here is that the Colts are going to be good, whether it's this year or next, and the Ravens are still a work in progress on offense.
All right, Jay, what game do you want to touch on next? Let me see the chat real quick. Let me see what the chat is saying. Lamar isn't a great passer. It is what it is. We got that. What else do we have? Preach, Ray. Rain don't affect the home. Don't just affect. Yeah, Hunter, we ain't going to get into no weather stuff. Like, I'm not doing that. Both teams play in the bad weather. I don't want to hear anything about that. Does A-Rich win this game? Why wouldn't he? I mean, he looked incredible every time he's played. So, yeah, I think A-Rich would have. And
he would have used his legs more, right? He would have used his legs. Like Lamar did.
Yeah, Minshew couldn't use his legs. That ain't what you want Gardner Minshew doing, Jay. But where are we going with the next game, man?
I kind of want to go to Atlanta and Detroit, and kind of a surprise result for me, right? You have the Detroit Lions winning at home, which, the Lions are a great team, but definitely was a little bit surprised to see this game play out the way it did. Because in my opinion, Ray, I've been kind of on this train. I still think that the Atlanta defense played pretty damn good in this game, holding down Jared Goff. But Jared Goff was good, 22 for 33, 243 and a touchdown. He did throw a pretty bad interception to Jesse Bates. Once again, Jesse Bates is just lurking back there, waiting for you to make a mistake. But I think the biggest takeaway, and I want your thoughts on this player, is Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Everyone was wondering, is he going to get the majority share of the carries? He ended up seeing 17 of 23 running back carries for 80 yards, but only 1 reception and 2 yards. Amon-Ra was great, 9 for 12, 102 yards. Sam Laporta, Ray, 8 of 11 targets, 84 yards, and a touchdown. But I think the biggest takeaway for me, as I mentioned,
he's our tight end baller of the week. The tight end baller of the week, Sam Laporta. Awesome.
Tight end 1, man.
Awesome.
He is
awesome.
Great. Awesome. He is great. And I think the biggest question for me now, Ray, there's 2 things. 1,
talk to me.
What happens when J-Mo gets back into this offense? And 2, is this Detroit Lions run D legit? Because once again, they held these running backs down again. Like they couldn't do anything last week. No one could do anything the week before that against Kansas City. Like 3rd week in a row now, this Lions run D, 17 carries for 45 yards between the 2 Atlanta running backs. And this is one of the top running offenses in football, right? Like they have been going crazy on everybody, but the Lions continue to do it with just 4. Obviously, drafting a linebacker made a world of a difference for them, both in the run game and in coverage. You know, everyone kind of shit on that pick a little bit. But for me, it's do you think this can continue for the Lions? Because they're not putting up a ton of points, but I think with J-Mo, they could be a very dynamic offense.
Yeah. Well, let's start with Detroit, because they did win the game, and it was a tough game. I thought Atlanta played them very well for the most part, man. You know, the Sam Laporta catch and score, he was wide open. It was a very, very well schemed
backside
play.
Wheel,
Yeah, it was very, very well designed play. He was wide open. So outside of that long touchdown, they didn't give up a lot. They did not give up a lot. Atlanta's defense kept them in there. What really hurt the Falcons was offensively, they couldn't get anything going. You see Desmond Ridder, 200 yards, but the more important thing, 7 sacks. Those are just drive killing plays. Bijan couldn't get anything going between the tackles. Algier couldn't get anything going between the tackles. So you have to give credit to the front 4, the front 7 of the Detroit Lions. You know, you have to give them credit because they played swarming defense. They were flying all over the field. They're doing it without C.J. Gardner-Johnson on the backside. You know, give all the
11
credit.
tackles for Brian Branch too. So
Brian Branch was
an impact in the
everywhere. He was everywhere. What a steal out of Alabama that the Lions got in Brian Branch. On the offensive side of the ball, Jahmyr Gibbs, 17 for 80. You saw it, like when they utilize him on the edges. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to watch what's happening and be like, that guy probably needs the ball in more creative ways. They did try to run a couple of screens with him. They were blown up. I was encouraged. I see some people in here saying overrated, all of this stuff. You wanted him to. Here's my problem with fantasy gamers. You wanted him to get the volume. He got the volume, and you're still bitching and complaining. He doesn't get the volume. You bitch and complain. Like, he's not. What do you want him to do? Go out there and get 215? 11 carries, 215 yards. They want the Devon A-Chain explosiveness, and you're overlooking the process of what's going on. He's out there. He's playing. This is exactly what they did with Montgomery. They slammed him up the middle, and I told everybody, this is not what I want them to do with Jahmyr Gibbs. Use him. Run a toss play with them, for Christ's sake. I mean, they did one with Craig Reynolds, and he got a loss of 1. That's exactly what you get when you run a toss to Craig Reynolds. Do that with Jahmyr Gibbs. I don't believe he's overrated at all. Anybody that's saying that, I challenge you to go sell him. Let me go see what you trade him for. If you think he's overrated, not that good, go trade him. Drop it in the comments so we can see what you sell that Gibbs for, because you can sell him right to me. It is very clear to see. Just utilize them. They use them more, get them in more creative space games, and it's gonna be fine. I was encouraged by this. The other side of the ball, this was not the Bijan Gibbs bonanza that we thought it was gonna be. Very, very struggle bus for the Atlanta Falcons. And then let's not even get to the damn pass catchers, Jay. Let's not even get to the pass catchers, right? Drake London, he got his 6 targets, but nothing for Drake London. 2 for 31. Kyle Pitts, talk about him, Jay. He got in the action. 9 targets, another missed touchdown from Desmond. Why? I mean, just hit him in stride. Come on. I mean, at that point, he's over 100 and something yards. He's got the touchdown, 6 receptions, but 5 for 41, 9 targets for Kyle Pitts. are you encouraged by the usage and at least opportunity that Pitts got today or yesterday?
Nope, not even a little bit. Because this is, unfortunately for people who aren't paying attention, this is the ceiling game. Because pretty much the only better matchup right now for a tight end is the Philadelphia Eagles. And so fire up your K-Dot in this week, because for people who aren't aware, the Philadelphia Eagles have allowed the tight end 1 2 weeks in a row. So if you're not paying attention to that, tight ends against Philly, great matchup right now. But second best is actually the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are allowing over 80 yards a game to opposing tight ends. Obviously, almost did that again this week with Jonnu Smith and Kyle Pitts getting 5 receptions on 17 combined targets and over 8 or almost 80 yards. So you look at what this offense is doing, it's terrible. But if you think it's going to get better in other matchups, it's just not. Like, there's not going to be much better matchups than the Eagles and the Lions right now. And so, yes, it was a great spot. And shout out to Gene, because Gene did say you could fire up Kyle Pitts. And while he was kind of right and wrong, because 9.1 points is like just enough, Scott Conner was running the tight end WAR numbers. And I believe the threshold was like 8.1 points for positive WAR. So Kyle Pitts barely got there. But I mean, outside of that, like, there's not going to be better matchups than this one. So I think if you're expecting Kyle Pitts to be better without the touchdowns, obviously touchdowns change a lot, but without the touchdowns, he's probably not going to be much better than a 5 for 41 weekly, unless Desmond Ridder drastically improves or this offense gets significantly better. But in my opinion, this offense is not an Arthur Smith problem. It has a Desmond Ridder problem. And that's what needs to change, is Desmond Ridder.
What do you think, man? A lot of people saying Taylor Heineke, if he were in the game, if he were playing, it'd be a lot better.
I think it could be. I think it could be better. I'm not saying that he is better, but we've seen Taylor Heineke have 250-yard performances to make big throws down the field to a Terry McLaurin, to a Jahan Dodson. Like, we haven't really seen that from Ridder. The best throw Desmond Ridder's ever made was the throw to Drake London in the preseason game, which didn't even count. So you're talking about, like, make the big throws in real games. Like, Heineke, like, to put Tater Wolf saying Heineke couldn't be worse.
That's fair.
He could be worse in certain games, but there's also games where he could play a lot better than we've seen from Ridder. So I don't know if they're going to make the switch, but we clearly know he's not the guy. Like, he's just not
playing well. He is not upholding his end of the bargain of being the quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. And your job as the quarterback for an NFL team is to get the damn ball out of your hands and get it to your playmakers. And he's not doing that. He's not. I'll say this. I don't know if Taylor Heineke is any better long-term than Desmond Ridder, but he can't be worse than what we're getting out of him. He's unconfident. He's unsure. And it's not that he doesn't have time to throw the ball. He's late on things. He's got to see it in order to throw it. And if you've got to see it open to throw it, it's probably not going to end well.
It's already going to be closed. Yeah,
it's already going to be closed up, Jay. All right. Where are we going for the next game, Jay? Where do you want to go in the next game you want to talk about?
Do you want to go to this Packers-Saints game right in front of us? Because there's still that Chargers mini game that I can't wait to talk about that one. But we will start with the Saints and Packers, because the fact the Saints blew this game just absolutely blows my mind. They were up 17-0 in the first half. Derek Carr obviously got hurt. They scored 0 points after he went out. But, I mean, you just look at what Jordan Love did. He was super inefficient. He couldn't make anything happen. 22 for 44, 259 yards, touchdown, interception. The interception was awful. Absolute arm punt. They couldn't do anything on the ground.
I mean, he just threw it up. It was a punt. It was the same difference as a punt. It wasn't like it was a bad read. He just threw it up in the air and just said, here, somebody's down there. And it definitely was. It was a Saints defender that was down there for him.
Yeah, so, I mean, they obviously came back and won the game. I think the problem for me is, did you think that Jordan Love played well enough in this game that you feel confident in him going forward?
Absolutely.
The matchup was bad.
Absolutely.
The matchup was bad.
Absolutely. 100%. If anybody actually watched this game and not box score scouted that thing, the last drive from him to go ahead, that go-ahead score, absolute dime to Jaden Reed. He dropped one on the sideline, and then he caught the one where he had to dive out, lay out for. That was a statement drive for Jordan Love. That was his first home game at Lambeau Field. He did not play well early. The Packers didn't play well early. They have no running game. Zero. Outside of A.J. Dillon, and I am one, I don't like talking about players. He's not very good. I'll just say that. He's a running back that I don't believe is very good at being a starting running back in this league. No running game whatsoever. He's playing with first and second year wide receivers. And Jaden Reed, for as good as that one grab was, I mean, he was stone hands all game long. Just drop. When they needed to have the game, Jordan Love did exactly what you needed him to do, which is drive the ball downfield and deliver. Boom, 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 boom. Dobbs touchdown. Go ahead.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like when they needed it, he got it done. I am very encouraged by Love. This is a young man. I think Matt LaFleur is a good coach for him. I believe him
Very
sitting
good coach.
and learning behind Aaron Rodgers, even if Rodgers taught him or not, is going to serve him well. The Green Bay Packers have found their quarterback of the future. They can win with Jordan Love, continue to surround him with weapons. I was encouraged by what I saw from Jordan Love. On the other side of the ball, Derek Carr goes out. They say he's avoided worst-case scenario. No fractured clavicle, none of that stuff. So hopefully a couple of weeks he can get back in. I don't know how long he's supposed. The last thing I saw was maybe a couple of weeks, but avoided worst-case scenario for Derek Carr. Running backs. I'm seeing people blame Kendre Miller for a poor fantasy performance. I blame everybody out there that started him. You're out of your damn mind. You started. It's your fault.
Yep.
You started a rookie running back who literally has done just about nothing from the last time he played college football up until now. Multiple injuries. Didn't really do a lot during training camp because the knee was messed up. The hamstring was hurt. And you just assumed that he was going to go in there and bell cow that thing up on the road. You're bad for starting Kendre Miller. There's no need to put him in your lineup for the hopium of what he could do. He went out there. He led the team in touches. I'm sure you're happy. The 9 carries for 34 yards. This team needs Alvin Kamara back in the worst way. There's just no juice there for the Saints. You're going to be without Derek Carr, and I don't even know if that's really a true downgrade or not with Jameis Winston. But the Saints are now 2-1. His division is tough. We gave the NFC South a lot of crap that it's going to be an awful division, and Tampa Bay's playing well. They've got a big matchup tonight. The Saints 2-1 in the division. We already just talked about who was the team from the South that we just talked about? The Panthers, the Falcons. I mean, the Falcons. We talked about them and their defense. It's just this is what you want. You want Chris Olave off of this offense, no doubt about it. You want Chris Olave, Michael Thomas again. He's the wide receiver two on this team. He's the wide. Chris Olave is the one. MT is the two. Good enough. We're not getting much out of Juwan Johnson. We were a little more bullish on him, thinking he could do something. Got a little bit of a contract. Rashid Shaheed scored a long touchdown on a kick return or punt return, I believe it was.
Punt return, yeah.
But outside of this, man, this offense needs some juice. They need AK-41 back.
Yeah, they need Kamara back in the worst way. And, you talk about Shaheed. He couldn't even get the ball. Only 2 targets in this game. He's one of the more dynamic playmakers, especially down the field. So for me, I think that's the biggest problem is that you talk about this offense. Not only were they terrible, but they also only scored 7 points, right? They did get the field goal, which is helpful, and they missed the game winner. But Shaheed did provide 7 points of offense that wasn't expected because he returned a punt for a touchdown. And so you look at it from that perspective now, and you're like, wow, the Saints the first week against the Titans, what was it, 17 points? Last week against the Panthers, not a lot of points again. And then this week, none against the Packers. I do believe the Packers have a great defense, but this offense is really struggling. Whether it's Derek Carr, Jameis Winston, AK-41 or not, they're still not providing anything on offense, and that's with Chris Olave playing pretty well. As you mentioned, MT, Rashid Shaheed showing up in the first 2 games at least. So it's really this ground game that's struggling. They need Jamal Williams back. They need Kamara back, and then maybe they'll be okay. But Ray, I have to ask you, who's the best team in this division right now? Because I'm tempted to say it's the Bucs. Like, I really am. Because I think the defense is pretty good and the offense is better than we expected. Yeah,
and real quick to the Green Bay, they were down David Bakhtiari, and there was somebody else that was announced absent. So I know people are like, oh, Jordan Love didn't look good for 3 quarters, but when they needed him to look good, he so many times you see players just, they nut up, man. They start off bad and they nut up and they can't recover. The fact that mentally at home, knowing this is your debut as the Green Bay Packers quarterback, did not play well to start the game. You're down offensive weapons. To come back versus this defense and drive down the field in a go-ahead situation, that is that right there eliminates however bad he was throughout the beginning of the game to get through and win that one and deliver. Impressive. Best team in the South? I don't know. We'll see if Tampa Bay can pull off something tonight. I have no idea, Jay. No clue who the best team from the NFC South is right now. And then there was a question, do you pick up Jimmy Graham off of waivers? Absolutely not. He had 1 target. Do not pick up Jimmy Graham off of waivers. Don't spend any fab. Don't do anything for Jimmy Graham. Do not waste any resources on Jimmy Graham. All right, let's talk about the Washington Commanders and the Buffalo Bills, Jay. Buffalo with a nice little beat down of the Commanders, and it didn't even feel this close, man. It did not feel 37-3-ish. It felt like 70-0-ish. And that's what it felt like watching that game. Josh Allen didn't even have a monster day because he didn't have to. Sam Howell just continued to set them up in positive situations. Awful performance from Sam Howell. One of the biggest disappointments on the week, just when we started to give him a little praise, right? 2 games, looking pretty good. Maybe the Commanders lucked up and found their quarterback of the future. And maybe, Jay, just maybe, that was because he played the Denver Broncos, who gave up 70, and the Arizona Cardinals, who I can't say much about the Arizona Cardinals this week, but Sam Howell, 170 yards, 4 not touchdowns, interceptions, 9 not rush attempts, sacks for 45 yards. He was dreadful. If you started him, not good. Brian Robinson, he B-robbed his way, 10K. He looked good running the ball.
He was good, man. 7 yards a carry. Come on.
He looked good running the ball, but they didn't do anything with any of the running backs or Brian Robinson in the receiving game. It was all Antonio Gibson this game. And then you just look at the receivers. This is why McLaurin, Dotson, I said it last week. Terry McLaurin might be the people's receiver, a top 5 receiver in real football. But fantasy football, he is a middling, cute, low-end wide receiver too, with tremendous upside because he's got the talent. But in this offense, I don't know how much time and patience I'm going to have for a 28-year-old receiver on a poor pass attack. This was just bad. I mean, Buffalo's defense put foot in ass. You see this, none of the receivers outside of Diggs caught more than 2 passes, Jay. None. I thought we were in for a big Gabe Davis game early after he caught that touchdown. Didn't catch another pass. Barely got targeted after that. James Cook started off doing nothing, and he finishes the game with damn near 100 rushing yards. It was not a dominating performance from the Buffalo Bills offense, but the Buffalo Bills defense is who came in and absolutely dismantled this Washington Commanders offense. It was a no contest for the Commanders. They were a fraudulent 2-0 team. They are
who we thought they were, right?
They are who we thought they were. They were a fraudulent 2-0 team. Buffalo Bills is dope, but Sam Howell's got to play better. He's got to play better ball, Jay, if they want a shot to win. And it's not just the interceptions, it's the sacks, man. Throw the damn ball away.
9 sacks is crazy.
Throw the ball away. That is wild. Nasty work. 9 sacks by that Buffalo Bills defense. Jay, anything that you want to take away from this game that we didn't already kind of touch on?
No, the only thing I think that you kind of mentioned without mentioning is do not start quarterbacks against the Buffalo Bills. Like, just don't do it. They are... we'll get to the Chiefs in a minute, but the Buffalo Bills may have the second best defense in the league, and it's going very quiet because I feel like no one's really talking about how good they've been. But 9 sacks, 4 interceptions. They played great, obviously, against Zach Wilson, even though they lost, and then still a great game against Jimmy Garoppolo as well. So you look at who they've played, not the greatest competition, but we'll see how they play against the Dolphins this week. That game is also at home for the Bills, so that's a big game for them. But I do think the Bills' defense is balling right now, and you do not want to be playing these fringy quarterbacks against this Buffalo Bills defense.
Well, Jay, the problem is there are a lot of fringy quarterbacks in the NFL landscape right now. That is the problem, is that there are fringy quarterbacks left and right all over the NFL. And you look across the landscape of what we play in fantasy, like, you're going to have to start think about this. You're going to have to start some of the Ritters, the Howells, the Derek Carrs, Jameis Winstons, the Zach Wilsons of the world. Like, you're just kind of forced to do that because the options are so limited right now. And if you kind of hoarded quarterbacks, hopefully you hoarded the right ones, because the landscape is not good, man. It is rough, Jay. All right, where do you want to go on the next one? I'm time stamping this, Jay. Where do you want to go on the next one?
I want to go to Minnesota.
Ooh,
right. I want to go to Minnesota
because talk about it.
I need to be honest with the people. I got this game playing a little wrong. Wrong.
Oh, I'm on the Jets. I'm sorry. You said Minnesota, right? Minnesota.
You said, we can quickly go through that game.
No.
Zach Wilson is bad. Mac Jones is okay.
No, we're going to talk through the Jazz. Let's pull up the Chargers Vikings. Go ahead. You said you were wrong on this one. What were you wrong about?
I was a little. So my thought, right, was they were going to have to run the ball to win the game, and that was somewhat true, even though they had 0 success, right? I talked about how the Minnesota Vikings pass defense has been much better than people expected. Now, they did give up 400 yards through the air, but I mean, Justin Herbert, absolutely surgical. Kellen Moore said, you know what, Justin, you're either going to win this game or we're going to lose this game. 47 attempts, 40 for 47, 405 yards, 3 touchdowns.
Crazy.
This is what happens when your play caller says our quarterback is how we're going to win games. He didn't give the ball to Josh Kelly. He didn't give the ball to anybody else. He said, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Justin Herbert, go and win the game. Baller of the week, Justin Herbert, 40 for 47, 405, 3 touchdowns, QB1 on the week. But they still should have lost this game, Ray. They still should have lost this game. I don't care what anybody says. Brandon Staley should have lost this game and should have been fired.
Who's lucky?
22-yard line, 4th and 1. They go up the middle, and I'll blame Kellen Moore a little bit. The play call was rough. It wasn't great to give it to your who they give it to. They give it to Kelly or Spiller. I don't know who they give it to. Terrible play. Terrible play. But to not win that game, and I have to give some criticism to Kirk Cousins. That was a god-awful final play. Not because he threw the pick, but because he didn't know they didn't have a timeout. They wasted a bunch of time, and he just threw it to TJ Hawkinson in the middle. Bad pick, unlucky, but the organization from the offense as a whole with 30 seconds to play was just terrible. And then, of course, Justin Jefferson almost got hurt and almost ended his season. I thought his Achilles was gone, Ray. Oh, I don't know what you thought. I was on red alert.
Yeah. I was like, oh, no. Oh,
not again.
No, that's all I could think about was
he starts jumping on the leg. I was like, oh my God.
Well, when he did that, I was like, okay, he's all right. Once he did that, I'm like, okay, he's all right. But yeah, man, Brandon Staley, who's luckier, Brock Purdy or Brandon Staley? I hear everybody saying Brock Purdy's got 9 lives. Brandon Staley's got to be the luckiest guy in the NFL because they should have lost that game. They should have lost.
He didn't do a damn thing in this
game. Should have lost that game, but they didn't. Justin Herbert, you saw it. Our quarterback baller of the week was incredible. 4 incomplete passes this game. He was phenomenal, and he got vultured by Keenan Allen for another 50 yards and a touchdown. Keenan Allen absolutely vultured Justin Herbert. Should have been 4 touchdowns for Herbert, but instead, Keenan Allen gets it, and my God, Jay, just after we went berserk over Puka Nakua's 20 targets, old man Keenan Allen went out there and said, give it to me. 20 targets, 18 receptions, 215, 1 touchdown. My goodness, Keenan Allen, and the touchdown was passing, so he got 49 bonus yards there, throwing the damn ball. But my God, Keenan Allen, what a monster performance from this target hog. Listen, Jay, we come into every season. Jay, the 440 of you in the building, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We do this shit every year. We pump up the second-year breakouts. Christian Watson, Drake London, Treylon Burks is going to go off. I'm still in on that Rashad Bateman. Give me some Jerry Jeudy. I want DJ Moore. I want Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Jahan. I don't want any stinking Devontae Adams. I don't want any Keenan Allen. He's too old, Jay. Keenan Allen's always hurt, and he's old. Like, Quentin Johnston's taking over for Keenan Allen this year, and all these old-ass receivers do go out is Mike Evans and Devontae Adams and Keenan Allen, and they just go out there, and they just get it. When are we going to learn? When are we going to save the hopium, the enthusiasm, and just say, until these old guys get knocked off of the pedestal, I'm just going to continue to ride with him? Because Keenan Allen he was open. It didn't even look like Minnesota tried to cover him. It didn't even look like Minnesota was covering him. The running game for the Chargers is dreadful. You can't, even my man Noah Hills, who is the biggest Isaiah Spiller hater on earth, said, damn it, give us anybody but Josh Kelly. Can somebody put in Dotson, put anybody but Kelly? We need Austin Eckler back in the worst way. Jay, versus this team, he couldn't do anything. You can't start Josh Kelly. I don't care how many more opportunities he gets. I can't play him, man. I'm not playing this guy. He's awful. He is awful. I'm not starting Josh Kelly. That's 2 weeks in a row. He absolutely shit the bed for us. Can't start Josh Kelly. We did talk about Mike Williams, had a monster game, 7 for 121, 1 touchdown, but it is believed to be a potential season-ending injury. I don't know if anything is confirmed, but not good for Mike Williams, man. Very unfortunate for him. He's had a lot of injuries from college to the NFL.
Yeah.
They are starting to pile up for Mike Williams. Very, very unfortunate. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's confirmed yet, but not good for Mike Williams. Josh Palmer got in the end zone. I think he will be the biggest beneficiary. I know a lot of people are excited.
Oh, that touchdown, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, yeah.
What was that?
I mean,
they had the game and they just blew it, man.
Right place, right time. Right place, right time. Right place, right time. Gerald Everett got in the action.
Crazy.
QJ didn't do much, but people are going to expect him to take a step forward with Mike Williams. And to be quite frank, you're a first-round pick. You should take a step forward with Mike Williams out. And we'll see how that goes. We'll talk about, do you want to buy into QJ or not? But on the other side of the ball quickly, Jay, I want to talk about Alexander Mattison, who he finishes the game. He finishes the game with a pretty good stat line. I mean, 5 receptions, 32 yards, 20 carries, 93 yards. But if you watch the game, he didn't play particularly well. And there was a lot of conversation on the old Twitter about Mattison and him needing to be replaced. And a lot of people saying this is going to open the door for Cam Akers next week for this Vikings offense. And I'm not going to say that Akers is coming in and taking this job, but I'm pretty sure they're going to want to use him just to see what else they have. I don't think Mattison played particularly well. He battled after dropping the ball, putting the ball on the ground a couple of times, never lost anything, but we'll see. He had a rough week last week, produced for us for fantasy. If you started him, you're okay with it. He got you, a couple of points, 15 points, something like that?
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins, another 350-yard game, 3 touchdowns. It's just, that's what they're going to do. He took a beating, too. I know he was sacked 4 times, but he got beat up in this matchup quite bad. Justin Jefferson finally got in the end zone. We've been waiting for Justin Jefferson's score. He had a monster day, but by Justin Jefferson's standards, ho-hum, 7 for 149 and a touchdown, 13 targets. No big deal. That's a standard day of work for Justin Jefferson. Addison got involved, volume-based. TJ Hawkinson, very consolidated passing attack. It's 3 guys. KJ Osborne caught 1, but outside of that, that is it for the Minnesota Vikings, Jay. Any other takeaways from this matchup, fantasy-wise?
No, man. Like you mentioned, the only guys running routes are the big 3. The only reason why we saw a Brandon Powell route, which is the first time I believe we've seen a route from a wide receiver who wasn't KJ Osborne, Jordan Addison, or Justin Jefferson, was literally because Jefferson got hurt. You talk about TJ Hawkinson and what he did. I mean, we've been talking about him as the tight end 1, potentially. I mean, he's playing like it every single week. But I did want to point out that Sam Laporta actually had a very similar stat line to TJ Hawkinson. Just, of course, he got in the end zone. And so that is the big difference there. But both guys had a very similar stat line, 8 receptions, 11 targets. And I believe Laporta had like 5 more yards. But outside of that, man, I mean, KJ Osborne doesn't need to be playing so much. Addison needs to get involved more often. I was surprised to not see his involvement early in the game. He was like basically invisible for the first half of the game. Jefferson was phenomenal, but this team is just, it's bad. But yeah, for people who don't know, Cam Akers was inactive. That's why you didn't see him in this game. But as you mentioned, fully expected him to see him next game. And then QJ, not so concerned about him. I don't think he's going to do a ton overall, to be honest.
Yeah, people are asking if you had to pick up one or the other, QJ or Palmer. Ryan says, are you picking up QJ or Palmer if Mike Williams is hurt? Yeah, Mike Williams is hurt, Ryan.
Yeah, no report yet on.
I'll just say this again, Jay. What I'm going to say is, you were drafted in the first round, right? You were drafted in the first round, so this is what. Step it up, goddammit. Step it up. I don't know how else to say it. Step it up.
But do you believe, though, Ray? This is a question for you. Not the draft capital, not what's expected. Do you believe? That's what the people want to know. They don't want to know where he was drafted. They don't want to know that. They know where he was drafted. But where do you think that QJ can step up in this role? Because I personally am not there yet. I would take Josh Palmer pretty easily, especially because when he was hurt last year, they really struggled. And Austin Eckler was the one who pointed out they needed Josh Palmer back in that offense. So I do believe Josh Palmer will be good.
If he's going to get the opportunity, I will bank on that. I'll bank on the capital and the opportunity. I would take QJ. I would just bank on it, Jay. I don't feel great about it. But he was drafted in round 1. Like, you were eventually supposed to take over this role.
Yeah.
And maybe accelerated. So I think he's going to get the opportunity to do it. I would just lean into it, but I'll just tell you right now, I don't feel good. Don't start him on my behalf. Make your own damn decision with that one. Don't start him on my behalf. But Jay, now we are at the middle of the show, sort of, kinda. It's time for a break. Time for a little mid-show break, and we're going to overreact. Normally, we do this at the beginning of the show, but I wanted to get some more people in. We got 500 in the building, 500 damn people in the building.
Hit the
like button. Come on, man. Hit the like button. So let's do our favorite topic, Jay. Have so much fun. Let's overreact. Overreaction segment. And we talked about a few of these players, but now I'm going to put fire to the test, Jay. So let's start out talking about the golden one, the golden boy, Trevor Lawrence. My question to you, Jay, I don't want to overreact, but damn it, we got to. Is Trevor Lawrence just a mid-tier QB hiding behind the veil of his draft capital and collegiate hype? Is Trevor Lawrence more mid-QB or elite QB? Which one are you buying?
I would say mid QB pretty easily. But to your point, he's young. He's the golden boy, number 1 overall pick. He's going to have that allure and that value in Dynasty, but definitely a mid-tier quarterback. No difference between him and Dak Prescott as far as I'm concerned. It's just the age.
So let me ask you right now, and we were talking about this earlier in the show, Trevor Lawrence or Tua right now?
Tua.
All right, Trevor Lawrence or Anthony Richardson?
Anthony Richardson.
Trevor Lawrence or Lamar Jackson?
Lamar Jackson.
Trevor Lawrence or C.J. Stroud?
C.J. Stroud.
Trevor Lawrence.
Bit of a projection, but Stroud.
Trevor Lawrence or Jordan Love at QB 12?
I would take Trevor Lawrence there it's driven by volume a little bit because I think that Lawrence will have the volume and Love probably won't based on how they're using him right now.
T-Law or Purdy?
That's so
you
hard,
man.
To
do it.
The answer really is Brock Purdy. Like I know that people don't want to think that, but the answer really is. I mean, how many games in a row does Brock Purdy need to throw for 2 touchdowns till we're like, maybe he's just good in fantasy? Like, yeah, it was against the Giants. The Giants are terrible, but like T-Law has 3 touchdowns this season passing. That's it, 3. And Purdy's like 2 a game almost every game. I know he threw 2 against the Steelers. He threw 2 against the Giants. I believe he had 1 in the other week. So it's for fantasy year to year, it's Purdy. But of course, in Dynasty, people want T-Law. So
Glock Purdy. People saying Glock Purdy. All right, Jay Rich, another one. Talked about him a couple of segments ago, but the Green Bay Packers have found their quarterback of the future in Jordan Love. Are you buying Jordan Love right now in Dynasty, and for what? Would you buy Jordan Love today to be one of your quarterbacks of the future for Dynasty? Are you?
I don't think I am.
Okay,
I don't think I am.
Yet. All right,
I don't think I am. It's not that I don't believe. I just think he's getting really lucky. Like
you think Jordan Love is getting lucky?
His touchdown rate was like 10% coming into this game, so he was getting pretty lucky.
Touchdown rate ain't got nothing to do with no damn. That ain't luck. Touchdown rate is not luck. It may not be a.
Well, when you're throwing a post to Dontavian Wicks and he's breaking a play in the middle of the field, he's running for touchdown. Like that's a little bit lucky.
No, we can't. So then Sam Laporta running a wide open wheel route or Tank Dell running wide. Like we're not doing that. There's no luck. Sure, there's luck factored into all of that and scheme, but we're not about to do that and cherry pick what pass was wide open and what pass wasn't. Because I can go through every quarterback in the NFL and be like, he was wide open, that was lucky. Are you buying into Jordan Love long term or not?
No.
Okay.
No. He's tied with Patrick Mahomes in touchdowns. That's not going to continue the whole season.
All right, Jay. Sam Howell, what are you doing with him in Dynasty? What are you moving or buying Sam Howell for? Maybe some people just say, that was a bad matchup versus the Buffalo Bills. I like what I saw for the first 2 weeks. If you have Sam Howell in Dynasty after his 4-interception, 9-sack day versus the Buffalo Bills, whom you've said don't play any quarterback against them, what are you doing with Sam Howell right now? Overreact. You buying him or you selling him?
He's tough, man. I feel like he's a guy that I really have to do a deep dive on. Initial reaction would be to sell him, though. Like, I don't know if he's going to get much better as a quarterback. He could be, absolutely. But I just don't know if I'm in on Howell. He's very schedule dependent. Like, you need to start him in good matchups where I think he'll be okay. But in bad matchups, clearly he's going to blow up and be really bad for you. And so at that point, what are you holding him for? The problem is that what are you going to get for him as well? Like, can you even get a second for Sam Howell?
Somebody said, can you trade Howell for Love? I'd sell for 2 seconds. Buy low or hold.
2 seconds. Can you get that though?
Yeah, David.
And if you hold, does the bottom drop out?
David said it's definitely not the week to sell. Not the week to sell. All right, definitely let's overreact a little bit more on this show. Jay, Justin Herbert, he was sensational. 40 for 47, We saw everything that he did. Currently, he is being valued as QB4 in Dynasty. Wow. Justin Herbert, QB4, ahead of Burrow, ahead of T-Law. Should he be even higher? Should he be QB2, ahead of Josh Allen, ahead of Jalen Hurts? Or is he priced appropriately at QB4? What have you? Overreact on Justin Herbert. How high should he be in the Dynasty ranks?
I don't know if he should be higher, but you could make the case. And I think the case you'd make is against Jalen Hurts as QB3 right now. Because if he doesn't look good against the Bucs, I think that's where you may see the flip, because the passing yards haven't really been there. The offense is struggling a little bit. Clearly they're missing Shane Steichen. Maybe they figured out a little bit. But I think if we're being honest, you'd probably prefer to be in Kellen Moore's offense, have that quarterback there. The only issue really is the fact that you have the Hurts rushing game, which is phenomenal for fantasy, and we all love that. But I think that Herbert could easily be QB3, and he's just a guy who, Ray, it's a player you want because people love him, and when he plays great, he's going to be high up in the ranks. Can he get past Allen? Maybe, but with Allen's rushing floor, probably not. I think they have a similar passing ceiling. Herbert will throw for a few more yards because he throws more, but I mean, he's QB1 right now on the season. It's hard not to argue with him being QB3, QB2. You're not going to be QB1 ahead of Mahomes, but I think you could easily make the case for him to be in the top 3 for sure.
All right, Jay, you buying or selling all ALL, all of them, every last one of them, Jay? Tennessee Titans offensive players: Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, Tajay Spears, DeAndre Hopkins, Treylon Burks. Are they just dead until further notice? Not startable, sell them, not buying any of them. I'm talking about all of them. Tannehill, Henry, Spears, Burks, Hopkins. What are we doing with the Tennessee offense? Can you start these guys at all moving forward?
You can start Hopkins, but he's the only one I think you can start. You can maybe make the case for Henry, but this is another bad matchup. And we talked about this on the show, right? Week 1 against the Saints, terrible.
Jay, when I was doing, Fantasy Pros got me in their ECR rankings, so I was updating my running back rankings for the week, and I had Derrick Henry when I hit submit, it said, "Are you sure you want to publish these rankings? You have Derrick Henry much lower than consensus." And I'm like, yeah, I'm not starting him versus damn Cleveland. But can you start any Titan player at this point? Any offensive Titan player?
So the player for me is Hopkins. I think that Hopkins is startable in certain matchups, right? So it's that's the only player for me, though. It's not Burks, it's not Chig, it's not even necessarily Derrick Henry. But I think in certain matchups you can start Hopkins, and I wouldn't hesitate to do so.
David said you're getting a 4th for all of them combined. Woof.
Yeah, Burks is dead this year. But again, it was the matchup. Cleveland might have the best defense in the league, and that's including San Francisco. Dallas falling down the defensive ranks after this week, but they played all right. Honestly, Arizona was really good this week.
I see people saying I'd buy him. I'm concerned, man. They need to get rid of I'm just going to say it right now.
But Ray, can it get better though? Can it get better?
I've got some contenders with Derrick Henry.
I'm worried about Derrick Henry.
I'm not counting on him being there in week 17. And you remember,
I got killed last week for saying to sell Derrick Henry.
I am not counting on him. If he's going to be on this team, I'll say it right now. I don't think there's a chance in hell he's active week 17. Not a chance. Not a chance, man. The O-line is awful. They can't throw the ball. They can't run the ball. There's no identity. They were literally in scoring position, and the clock ran out. I mean, Vrabel was just like, come on. I'm just so over. This team is not good, man. I mean, they literally had Deshaun Watson looking like he was back in Houston last week. You know, he looked like he was back to the old Deshaun Watson. And that leads me to my next overreaction question for you, Jay. And we'll end it right here with the we got 2 more. One more after this. Deshaun Watson probably had one of his better games as a Cleveland Brown outside the pass where he threw the ball backwards for some reason. Don't know what Watson was doing there. But
worst play I've ever seen.
But are you buying Deshaun Watson as an elite fantasy quarterback moving forward? This was an encouraging. He looked much better than he ever had before this week. He got Elijah Moore involved early. We saw Amari Cooper getting involved. They got kind of screwed out of a long touchdown pass. I don't know what happened there. Amari Cooper should have had an even bigger day. But are you buying into Deshaun Watson being an elite fantasy scorer the rest of the way for the Cleveland Browns? Is Deshaun Watson back?
I don't think he's back, but I'm not out, right? Elite, I would say maybe. You talk about scoring right now. There's 5 quarterbacks that are scoring more than 20 points per game. They are Patrick Mahomes, Jordan Love, Tua Tagovailoa, Kirk Cousins, and Justin Herbert. Behind them, you have Anthony Richardson, Lamar, Jalen Hurts, right around 19 points per game. So Watson is a little bit further down at 17.8. I think he can continue to do what he's been doing, but I wouldn't say he's going to be elite for you. I wouldn't say I'm selling him. I wouldn't say I'm out just yet, but he's been pretty bad. But this is a good performance, but against a terrible defense. And so that's the big takeaway is, can he do this in a more difficult matchup than against Tennessee Titans, who we all know are super easy to beat through the air, and everyone does.
Ryan says, where do you rank Watson in Dynasty? Trades in 5 in the building. Shout out to Trades in 5. Said he's got a long leash and still has a lot of talent. Right now on Keep Trade Cut, I think he was QB 17. QB 17 right now.
He's really far down on Keep Trade Cut.
On KTC. So real quick, would you rather Deshaun Watson or Dak Prescott?
I think I still want Dak.
Deshaun Watson or Brock Purdy?
Oh, I want Brock Purdy.
Deshaun Watson or Kyler Murray?
Honestly,
Deshaun or Kyler?
I think I might take Kyler, and that's literally because I'm very impressed by this Cardinals offense. If you get Kyler Murray in this Cardinals offense,
Jay,
I mean, hopefully it's still good, but
I tweeted this out. I tweeted this out yesterday. Watching them play, watching the play designs, the creativity, how they run the quarterback. I've been very impressed with what they've done schematically from an offensive perspective. And I tweeted this out yesterday. Imagine this offense with Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison. Not Caleb, but Kyler and Marv, right? Because I don't even want to get into a rookie quarterback, but with Kyler Murray, he's a Pro Bowl quarterback. He's one of the elite talents in the league. Imagine him in this offensive scheme. I'm watching Dobbs. I'm like, man, thank God Dallas didn't have to deal with Kyler Murray in this game. Like, it would have been even worse than what it was with Josh Dobbs. So last overreaction. Yeah, shout out to Josh Dobbs real quick. Last overreaction, Jay. Are we a little too low, or is the community a little too low on Seattle Seahawks second-year running back Kenneth Walker, who just went out there? Dude, I don't know if it's just me, but I watched him. I'm like, he looks kind of big out there. Looks short and stout. Looks a little Mike Davis-esque, but he's very fast. He can catch the ball. He's a physical runner. Like, a lot of people were very nervous about Zach Charbonnet coming in and taking this job from Kenneth Walker. And it seems like that is not happening at all. Like, he is the engine to that offense, Jay. So are we a little too low on one Kenneth Walker, ranked as running back 6 behind Tony Pollard, Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, Christian McCaffrey, and Bijan Robinson? How you feeling about K9 today?
I think we should feel pretty good. He's kind of like a plotter plus, right? Because he keeps scoring all these touchdowns. And so I don't think
he's a plotter at all. That's the thing. I don't think he's a plotter at all. You don't think he's a
plotter?
No, I do not. The thing is that he hasn't solved his issue of getting stopped behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, that's not all him, man. That's not him, man. That's not all him.
It's not all him, but he was the worst in the NFL last season. So we need to see him, get better. And we haven't seen the big plays, which is surprising from Walker.
Did you not just watch the game? The big play? Did you not just watch the game yesterday?
He made a couple big plays. I'm talking about for the course of the season, right? He's a good running back. I still don't know if he's going to be this elite fantasy option, and he's a top 6 guy right now. So do you want to buy into that price? My answer is still no.
Yes.
Mainly because of the running back landscape as a whole. But he's been good and scoring a ton of touchdowns. I think that Seattle's going to continue to utilize him heavily. I think he's going to be great for fantasy. I think you still want to have him. I don't know if I'm buying him, though.
I would. They didn't have Charles Cross, Abe Lucas. There was another offensive line out. He's far from a plotter. He's ripping off explosive plays. He may slam into the back of an offensive lineman occasionally from here or there, but that's just what you get with Kenneth Walker. I don't know what he's looking at sometimes, but he's far from a plotter. He's very explosive.
And the receiving game was great this week, too.
Very good player. Yeah, definitely not a plotter. All right, Jay. A couple of more games that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to get out of here. We kind of briefly touched on the Titans and the Browns. Deshaun Watson, big game. Don't start any of the damn of your what team is that? Tennessee Titans. Yeah, no, thank you, Jay. Your boy Justin Fields. Let's just talk about it, man. I mean, just when we thought it couldn't get worse. I mean, anybody expecting him to come into this matchup and win the game versus Kansas? This was a bad matchup for him. It was just a bad matchup, and the Chiefs were at him early. 99 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, sacked 3 times, ran the ball a little bit.
He was terrible. How much? I think he only had 40 passing yards when Mahomes went out of the game, when they were down like 40-3 or something. And even the field goal they kicked was legit, so they weren't getting shut out 40-0. I mean, this is what you get when you play this. But this is also why people need to realize how good the Chiefs defense is. Like, it is Fields being bad, but it is also the Chiefs defense being phenomenal.
I heard that they're the youngest defense in the NFL.
Yeah. They were the youngest last year too.
Defense that's scary. That's scary.
Like this is why when you saw them struggle last year, people were like, understand what's going on. They're paying Patrick Mahomes all this money and they need to figure out how to build this defense up. And the signing of Justin Reed was so phenomenal. Like, I feel really bad that they lost him in Houston because he is such a talented safety. But like, to have these playmakers on defense, to be so young and to play like this, even against the Bears, like they did it to the same team, the Jags last week. They played great against the Lions. Like, this defense is really good and they're going to get better. And that's the biggest problem, is that not only is this defense so good, but they're going to continue to get better. And they have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. For Fields, was not expecting anything in this game. He was worse than expected, but I wasn't expecting much against this Chiefs defense. He had 47 yards on the ground, which, again, we fully expect him to run the ball a little bit. He threw a touchdown in a meaningless effort to DJ Moore.
I'll say this, Jay. Your Fields sell window will open this week because he gets the Denver Broncos. Something's got to give. You got two bad teams.
If he doesn't have a great game, Ray, he's just toast. Like, he's just done.
If he fails versus Denver, it's a wrap. Like, it's probably
you can't count on after that.
Wrap. But he should destroy them, at least with his legs. They just gave up 1,000 rushing yards to A-Chain and Mostert. They should not throw the ball this game. It should be triple high school option, where you run literally triple option and run it down their throats. They don't even need to pass the balls. Just wishbone formation. Your Fields window should open up. Mahomes did get hurt in that game, Jay. I don't know what the severity of the injury was. It looked bad when he was limping around. Finishes the game. I'm pretty sure that ankle is swollen up the size of a balloon today. But he finished the game. Let's just pray that Patrick Mahomes is okay. He's good. All right. Yeah, running game was effective. Clyde got in the end zone. Probably his best game since his first game in the NFL. Literally. Probably his best damn game since his first game. And then Travis Kelce. Rasheed Rice stopped at the 1-yard line twice. Should have had 2 touchdowns in that game. MVS had a long play called back because right tackle was in. He was lined up off the line. You know, they're after him now.
Taylor.
So Mark Man. That took back a long touchdown for Valdez-Scantling. Jerick McKinnon got in the end zone a bunch of times through the air. Very dominating performance from the Kansas City Chiefs, Jay. And then my Dallas Cowboys. Man.
Oh, boy.
Poo-pooed all over the Cardinals, and they went out there and put foot in ass. They put foot in ass. I really don't. We couldn't stop James Conner. Josh Dobbs was efficient, 17 for 21. Ran the ball down their throats. Rondale Moore out of nowhere, does nothing for all the years I pump him up, and then finally he destroys Dallas on the ground.
Yep.
CeeDee Lamb couldn't get anything going. Jake Ferguson couldn't get it. Just Brandon Cooks looked rusty. It was just a bad game. Now, I don't want to make excuses, but Dallas, we were down 3 starters on the offensive line. No Trayvon Diggs. I mean, it was just, but on the road, like, you overlook a team and this is what happens. Like, this is what happens when you come in sleepwalking. Am I concerned about Dallas? No. Am I concerned about Dak or Pollard? No. It just was a bad game. They failed. They didn't look good. CeeDee Lamb, if you started him, you're not happy about that. Ferguson, I guess you'll take the 9 points from him. Tony Pollard had 122 on the ground, and outside of that, didn't do anything for you. Didn't do anything in the receiving game. Just an awful performance by Dallas on both sides of the ball. I'll say this, Jay, and everybody out there, tap into the Trinity series that I do every week. It's utilization for the receivers, but I talked about, Jay, Hollywood Brown in that last week's episode. Okay. And I said, listen, Hollywood is still commanding the target share. He's getting the air yard share. I think Hollywood is a sneaky buy right now because it's only going to get better when Kyler Murray or Caleb Williams comes in. And Hollywood's still getting he's the leading target earner on that team. He's going down the field. They're utilizing him in the red zone. This back-to-back games. where he's put up very serviceable numbers, where he's your wide receiver 2 on the week or a high-end flex option. I definitely think that inside of this Joshua Dobbs-led offense, Hollywood Brown is a player that I'd be targeting. If you can slide him in a couple of trades this week, I would do it. Talked about him last week. He delivered for us this week, Jay. All right, final game that we want to touch on or talk about. Is there anything else? There's nothing else. I mean, we kind of touched on Kenneth Walker. Let's talk about the Seahawks real quick. Seahawks and Panthers. Let's wrap with this. Andy Dalton, my goodness, comes in for Bryce Young. And I'll just say this, man. There's a I don't care how good for when you have a rookie that comes in and is as good as a CJ Stroud or an A. Rich right off the rip, it's pretty impressive because not all of them get to do that. Same offensive line as Bryce Young, but Andy Dalton's seen a little bit more, played with confidence, 361, 2 touchdowns for Dalton. Hell of a game from Andy Dalton. So if Bryce Young is hurt, I think Carolina will confidently just roll out Andy Dalton. They're 0-3. What do they have to lose? Miles Sanders got in the end zone on the ground, banged up, but it was Adam Thielen's day. And again, wide receiver Trinity show, Jay, the very first episode, I talked about Adam Thielen. And he's one of those guys that's going to continue to see this volume. People don't want him because he's old and it's Adam Thielen. But if you're trying to win in a seasonal league, like, go get him. He's all they got. I know Jonathan Mingo left with an injury. Terrace Marshall, they're trying to utilize him, but go grab Adam Thielen. DJ Chark had a big game in this one. On the other side of the ball, DK Metcalf caught for a lot of yards, 112 yards. Kenneth Walker, we talked about him, dominant through the air and on the ground. Seattle, man, they got it done. Geno Smith continues to look like a quality starting quarterback in this league. I do believe that Seattle has their quarterback of the short-term future. I'm not going to say Geno Smith is their long-term answer, but for the next couple of years, as long as Pete Carroll is there, Geno Smith is going to continue to produce. So we talked about it at the top of the show. 2 games on tonight. We got the we didn't talk New
England. Devontae Adams?
Well, we didn't talk Tay Adams and we didn't talk New England. So let's go New England and the Jets really quickly, Jay. Zach Wilson is just bad. He's bad.
I can't believe, Ray, that they are not replacing him. Like, it's too far now. Like, it's you can't believe in this guy. Like, you can't throw him out there. It's just absurd. You could sign any quarterback off the street and they'd probably be better than Zach Wilson. Like, Josh Dobbs looks like they should be trading a second-round pick to get him over starting Zach Wilson. Like, that's how bad it is. Even against the Patriots, even against the Bills, like, it's just ridiculous at this point. It's so bad. How can we possibly be an NFL organization and say we are starting Zach Wilson again?
I don't know. Because people are going to get fired. That's what's going to happen. This hurts in so many ways, Jay. Because my question is, how confident what do you do with Breece Hall? Think about this, right? And I know a lot of people, Dynasty in these 5 years, this is year 2 of Breece Hall is going to be wasted because it's not even Zach Wilson's bad. The O-line is not good. There's no threat of the passing attack. It's a waste of year 2 Breece Hall coming off of an ACL. He's wasting Garrett Wilson. You can't start him. You can't. I don't care you cannot start Garrett Wilson. Do not start Garrett Wilson. I know he's dope. He's a phenomenal receiver, but you cannot start him. It is too volatile. And the 9-10 targets that he get there, half of them are awful. Like, you are praying for a touchdown or him to do something. Not with Zach Wilson. They are non-starters, Jay. Breece Hall, nuke. Dalvin Cook, nothing. Like, this, it is ruining everything on this offense having him at quarterback. And I'm literally trying to get out of some Breece shares because I just can't. I don't want to wait another year for a running back in this running back market. This is bad. Jets are bad. Other side of the ball, New England still has no pass catchers, but Ezekiel Elliott, monster game on the ground, 80 yards for old man Zeke. Ramondre Stevenson, 19 rush attempts for him. And I'll say this, versus a good defense, Mac Jones, he was fine. He didn't turn the ball over, and most importantly, he didn't get sacked. New England got a win. We talked about this, Jay. This was a must-win game for both of these teams inside the AFC East. The Jets had no business winning game 1, and I know people aren't going to like this. Their best course of action probably, even with this defense, is just a tank. Like, just tank the year. I know people don't want to hear that. Oh, our defense is good enough. It ain't. It's not good enough to overcome this offense. The defense is
everyone
not
thinks
good enough to overcome this offense. You need your offense to do something, and this offense can't do anything. This is a problem, man. This is a big problem. Big problem for the Jets.
Right, question for you about the Jets, right? You talk about them needing to tank and Aaron Rodgers coming back next season. But is there a world where even next season they are still not good? Because is Aaron Rodgers ultimately back? Who is their quarterback, right? Like, there's a lot of questions the Jets have to answer right now, and it's not looking good for the foreseeable future. You know, Rodgers could come back and be okay and even be good, but I don't think we can even expect that. So if Rodgers isn't back and they have nothing at quarterback, these guys are dead assets potentially for multiple seasons. And so my question to you is Garrett Wilson. Like, do you even hold Garrett Wilson through this turmoil? Because we don't even know when it's going to get better. It may not even get better next season.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Scott's talked about selling Garrett Wilson. If my team was just loaded and I had extra capital, I could just buy him and stash him away, sure. But this isn't good. You can't start either of those guys moving forward. Pittsburgh and Las Vegas, the Sunday night game that I was not very interested in, but we had it on and just kind of watching it. Kenny Pickett got it done, and I don't think he looked particularly good in the game either. 235, 2 touchdowns. They got the job done because Jimmy Garoppolo was awful. 3 interceptions from Jimmy G. Josh Jacobs didn't do much. They were slamming him up the middle. He didn't get anything going to damn near the end of the third quarter. Devontae Adams was an absolute monster. 20 targets, 2 touchdowns, 13 receptions, 172 yards. And Jacoby Myers was incredible too. 8 for 85. Playing his wide receiver 2 role to Devontae Adams' wide receiver 1 job. The other side of the ball, George Pickens, George Pickens, we've been, people are excited about GP. I had everything covered up. Everybody excited about George Pickens. It was fine. Again, Kenny Pickett didn't look good. Calvin Austin had a big touchdown catch in that one. That was the only thing that he did in that game. Pat Freiermuth scored a touchdown. Other than that, non-existent from the tight end position. Jaylen Warren, 11 touches to Najee Harris's 19. Thought that Warren would get more work, but Najee out-touched him by 8 touches and didn't look good with his 65 yards, but you'll take the 65 yards, I guess. You'll take the 65 from Najee. Jaylen Warren didn't do anything on the ground. What do you think about these 2 quarterbacks? Again, 2 QBs that they're just mid, dude. They're middling quarterbacks. Kenny Pickett.
I mean, if Kenny doesn't get that long touchdown, right? He's literally staring down the barrel of like 160 yards and 1 touchdown. And maybe that's not fair, but it's just like that play again. It was just another broken play, right? Like it was a great route by Austin, but it's like there's nobody there. He just split the safeties and he just flies up the middle. George Pickens catches a slant right up the middle for a touchdown on a broken play. Like if they're not doing that, the running game is awful. The pass game, it leaves something to be desired. Like the Steelers are 2-1, but it's really on the back of that defense. And that defense is so good. So good. Probably top 5 in the NFL right now. They've been phenomenal.
Yeah, man. Well, there it is. There's a recap. Fantasy takeaways from week 3. We got 2 games tonight. Tampa Bay, Philly, the Rams, and the Bengals. Predict the winner. Who wins Tampa Bay, Philly, Jay?
I got Tampa winning.
Tampa winning. Who wins the second game?
Oh, I got the Rams. I got the Rams on the road. Yeah, I got to take the Rams on the road. Got to take my boy, Matthew Stafford, playing so well right now.
There it is. There he is. Appreciate everybody being in the building today on Wake Up. Remember, no wake ups on Wednesdays. We've got breakfast and bets. I will not be there.
Yes, sir.
But Mitch Carl will be there. Jay Rich, are you filling in for me on Wednesday for breakfast and bets?
Yes, sir.
There it is. Sir. And then we will be back. More Wake Up this Friday. Make sure you tap in 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Trinity Report will be out. I don't know if Trinity comes out Tuesday or Wednesday, but Trinity series drops Wednesday. Rookie Report comes out tomorrow, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. Podcast feed, Destination Dynasty, Scott Connor talking about war, wins above replacement. That dropped today. Make sure you do that. Check out the website, destinationdevy.com. Dope articles, content creators, get over there. Check out all the stuff we're dropping over there. And y'all have a fantastic Monday. Enjoy Monday Night Football. We had one super chat, though, Jay. My man David from across the pond. Before we get out of here,
David,
let's talk about David. David said, much as I love you guys and all the group, you are all the enemy this week. Team Europe. There it is. So who's traveling to London? Who's going to London this week? There's a London game in week 4.
Ooh, the Jags
It's always
playing.
the Jags, right? The Jags and Falcons probably, because they always go to London.
It might
and play.
be the Falcons.
The Jags and Falcons. I have no idea.
It is the Jags, and Falcons. Look at you,
okay,
right?
Look at that. There
Look
it is.
at you,
Jags
yeah.
and Falcons. Appreciate it, David. Appreciate everybody being in the building. We love y'all. We'll see y'all on Wednesday, and then I'll be back on Friday. Y'all have a good one. I'm out. Peace.